In the weeks before George Bush launched his shock and awe in Iraq, black people spoke to the Zogby polling organization. It was doing a poll. And that poll gave, I think, the best evidence that the black consensus on peace was still intact in 2002. Zogby asked the question, would you support an invasion of Iraq if it would result in the death of thousands of Iraqi civilians? Huge majorities of white males said yes, hell yeah. A majority of white females also favored invasion under those kinds of deadly circumstances. Hispanics were not quite so warlike as white people, but still almost half of them supported an invasion. But only 7% of blacks favored an invasion if it would result in the death of thousands of Iraqi civilians. That means that only a small and marginal segment of black people shared the same warlike attitudes as solid majorities of whites and near majorities of Hispanics. That's back in 2003. The findings in 2003 were consistent with polling numbers ever since they have tracked black public opinion, that is, in modern times. Peace has been a fundamental element of the African American worldview until Obama. We're not just talking about the behavior of black congresspeople. We know that they're crooked. We also know that these crooked black congressmen do pay some attention to black public opinion. They like to feel safe when they cast a vote for evil. 14 black members of Congress thought it was safe for them to vote to protect the NSA's spying campaigns. We call them the obscene 14 in Black Agenda Report. That means 1/3 of the caucus was down with the NSA. And why were they down with the NSA? Because the president was. They will vote for any evil if they perceive that it will help this president. There are 7 black congresspersons who are the worst of the worst. All 7 of these voted for the Libya war, they voted for NSA spying, and they voted for Obama's preventive detention bill. 2 of these lowest of the low are from Florida. Their names are Corrine Brown and Frederica Wilson. Just last week, those same names came up again as co-sponsors of a House bill to bring economic sanctions against Venezuela. Also, black congressman from Florida, Alcee Hastings, is a co-sponsor of that bill. We all know that sanctions are a prelude to war or a substitute for war. The black Florida congressional delegation, all of it, wants to make war against the mostly brown and black nation of Venezuela, which has done us no harm whatsoever. And this is normal black congressional behavior in the age of Obama. I'm talking about the deep insults and harms that this president has done to a people who really cannot be harmed psychologically by the likes of George Bush, but we can be grossly warped by one of our own in the White House. So we have to talk about the average black man and woman, the black man and woman at large. What has been their state of mind during this age of Obama? Have they been morally and politically corrupted by the presence of a black family in the White House? Has lasting damage been done to the black consensus on peace and social justice through this experience? These are serious questions. Only the passage of time will give us those answers. But the numbers don't look good. And there are numbers here that we can quantify. But when President Obama was threatening to bomb Syria, polls showed that black Americans were slightly more supportive of war than whites or Hispanics. According to a Washington Post ABC poll, 40% of blacks supported Obama's plan to bomb Syria. That was 2 points higher than white support, and it was 9 points more warlike than Hispanics. Majorities of Americans of all races opposed Obama's war plans, but blacks were, at that point in time, the least peaceful. This has never happened before, not in the modern history of black America. Now compare that to that Zogby poll that I told you about back in 2003, when only 7% of blacks said they'd support an invasion of Iraq if it would result in the death of thousands of Iraqi civilians. It's as if two different peoples were being polled. The pre-Obama poll of blacks and the black folks who are now caught in this Obama warp. They are giving wildly different answers to questions of war and peace. So, which is the real black America? The 2003 version, when only 1 in every 14 African Americans favored a war that would slaughter thousands, or the age of Obama black public, when pro-war opinion is slightly higher than that among whites. We're in an environment in which half of the black lawmakers in Congress representing black-dominated districts feel safe in voting for a murderous bombing campaign against an African nation, Libya. A vote on attacking Syria didn't occur because the Syrian attack got called off, but I believe that a majority of the black caucus would have supported a strike against Syria, and they would have felt safe in their own districts for having done so. They would not have feared retribution from black voters, a substantial segment of whom would have supported the black president, whatever he did. Does this new, and it is historically new, this new nightmare scenario go away when Obama leaves the White House soon? Some of it certainly will. Much of the current black receptivity to war is rooted overwhelmingly in the race of the commander-in-chief, and everybody understands that. There will be less black receptivity to U.S. wars when a white politician, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, moves into the White House. But that does not mean that there will be more active opposition to war among blacks just because Obama is gone. Activists still have a job to do, and it's a bigger job than we thought it was. That it will be in a profoundly different environment than the pre-Obama era. In fact, I think that the black political environment has changed since Colin Powell became the face of Bush the Elder's war. I'm going to say something that is oversimplified, but I don't think it's oversimplified by much. Black people in the United States developed an anti-war consensus because whites in power made war against us. They lied about us, and they demonized us throughout our history. And so we, therefore, had the good sense not to believe what they said about others who they demonized. We distrusted what white men in power said about people of color abroad because we knew they had lied about us here at home. So that was our natural and logical reaction. So of course, we opposed U.S. military adventures abroad because we knew the white people who ran the country were up to no good. And it was simple as that. And then they put a black man in the commander's seat, and our political defenses that we had honed over the ages because of these very simple truths, those defenses failed us. And we watched it happen over the last several years. That means that we can never again rely on black distrust of white people's motives to put them in the peace camp. That is, just because black folks distrust white people does not mean that they're going to automatically be against war, because black people can be put forward as the face of war. And who knows what happens. We are therefore forced to articulate, just as Dr. King did, how the U.S. war machinery is a threat to black welfare at home, no matter what color the top politician is or the top soldier is. And finally, we must confront the fact that young people, young black people, have experienced very little evidence of black leadership opposition to U.S. imperial policy in a very long time. In fact, it has been decades before these role models have risen and said no to U.S. imperial policy. A person of their ethnicity has been the #1 imperialist for the last 5.5 years. The guy with the kill list has been someone to look up to for a big part of many young black people's conscious lives. So it will be wonderful to see Obama go, but we will have the burden and the challenge to rebuild the black consensus for peace all over again. Power to the people.